listeners, this is Ashley Rodriguez, and I am hosting Taboo Talks. Welcome to my channel where we're going to talk about anything and everything. You think it, we'll talk about it. Hello everybody, and welcome to Taboo Talks. This is Ashley Rodriguez here, and I am your host again today. I just wanted to say real briefly that I'm really glad that you guys are joining us today. I think it's going to be pretty enlightening, very basic, very elementary, but definitely something that if you're driving in your car right now, you have enough time, hopefully, en route to listen and grab a few pointers from what I have to say today. I am, going to put together a video shortly on, it's basically a self-discussion about myself. That way you guys have a little bit more understanding of who I am, where I come from, what my interests may be. Because I don't want you out here listening to just anybody talk about anything. But like I said in my Taboo Talks 1, I really want this platform to be a place where we can come in and discuss some taboo topics, our beliefs and things like that. And I think what I'm going to discuss today is very basic in building that platform. It's really the approach that I want to take to Taboo Talks. And the question today that we have is why you should ask why. So the second why is in quotations. Just bear with me. I know you can't really see it. I'll go ahead and put it in the video. That way it makes a little bit more sense. But, why you should ask why. And it's very elementary, especially in the military culture that I've been accustomed to the past few years. Why is not something that you ask. Why can be considered, disrespectful, or, it can be signifying hesitance, when you should just be executing orders. But I think even in military culture that this is something that could benefit the individual, the team, the organization, and especially in the civilian side of things. So whether you're government, federal, all, kind of the same thing, or whether you fall under like civilian entities, I think this is all very applicable to your life and how you approach your way of thinking. So, I just want to start off by noting a few relevant, individuals that speak about understanding change and kind of like a children's way of thinking, but in a very positive way. And the first person that I'm referencing is LICKERMAN. He's an MD. And he wrote an article, which I'm going to link in the description for all three of these references that I have. But he clearly says in this article that people are more willing to understand change if we understand the reason behind that change. Even if changing doesn't benefit us or it causes us harm in some way, we're more likely to embrace it. And I just want to stop there for a second and kind of go into more detail on that. Again, referencing both sides of the lifestyle, whether it's military or civilian, that people are more likely to accept change and embrace it and, make it part of their typical way of thinking if they can understand where the person is coming from, what kind of background an individual has, or, why they're approaching things a certain way. So asking why allows us to understand change. And even if the change isn't good, it allows us to be in a better place to embrace change. So really, it just kind of sets you up for success, regardless of which way the cookie crumbles. Yeah, so that's my biggest thing for the first point that I wanted to make. I really, really want to encourage you guys to go and take a little read. It's not a very long read. It's just a little article that LICKERMAN has written. And again, he goes on to say that not understanding the reason behind things can cause anybody, especially employees, especially team members, and even family members, depending on your, the relationship that you're applying this to, it can cause people to become disgruntled, disempowered, or even depressed. And we don't want any of those things, obviously. So that's really the biggest first point, is asking why is going to lead you to understand change. And this is just kind of scratching the surface, guys. We're going to go way deeper into this. And I hope to have many more talks about this, especially with some featured speakers. But that would be the first and most important point that I wanted to start off with. So moving on to my second point that I have, the second reference that I wanted to use today, is by an entrepreneur and New York Times bestseller, RAMIT SETHI. And he has an article out there about the problems that smart people have. And he basically goes on to say, that people overanalyze things or intellectualize, that people have a tendency to be, I guess, loners and kind of to themselves when they're sitting there and questioning things about life and why things are the way they are. So I'm not going to go too deep into this reference here, but I wanted to note it because I believe, and others have written, that when you question why, or when you question why things are the way that they are, or why things happen the way that they happen, it causes you to have a way of thinking that raises your intellectual ability. So it basically makes you smarter. Asking why in the right context makes you smarter. And I think that was really amazing to look at this article that RAMIT SETHI had published, because although he is talking about the problems that smart people have, obviously if things are taken to the extreme, I think it's really important to notice and, take note of that if you don't feel like you're typically a smart person, or, maybe you really aren't, which is okay, we're all out there, all of us, then it's kind of a list to go by that you can kind of look forward to if you question why. You have some characteristics of being smart that I think really just hit the nail on the head for some people. And it gives you kind of a baseline of what you can look forward to, some qualities you can look forward to developing if you start questioning why a little bit more in your life. And then here we have Dr. Rebecca PALACIOS, I believe is how you say it. Again, I'll have the spelling and the reference in the description, but she's a senior advisor of curriculums at the Age of Learning. So she's real big in this article that I'll be sharing with you guys on children and why they question things at a certain age. If you have kids at all, mine is not old enough yet to be in this stage, but I have seen it at all ages, especially, in those understanding and those curious stages, where children will ask why about every living thing out there, things that you didn't even think of could possibly have the question why. Kids will ask why. And then here you are left to find a reason or a description and hope that you're doing a good job parenting while you're trying to find a description, even though it's something so, to us, meaningless or simple. To them is the biggest question and biggest curiosity that they have, and they're willing to explore that. It's a really good article. I really, really wanted to share this one with you guys because when I read it, it was kind of a slap in the face in a way, because I'm like, man, we really have gotten away from the basics. And I love that it goes into saying that their curiosity about the world around them helps them to build concepts, skills, vocabulary, and it helps them understand the unknown. And the reason that's important is because, guys, it doesn't matter how old we are, it doesn't matter what degree you have, you could be in your 90s. If you ever stop striving to build your concepts, skills, vocabulary, and understanding of things that are unknown, because things are always developing, really, you might as well, be done and just stop breathing, because you're not looking experience life, or to change, or to grow your way of thinking. And I think sometimes when, we grow up, we get older, and we start learning things, we kind of get complacent, and, our vocabulary grows and our experiences grow, but we kind of get complacent in the fact that we don't really feel like we need to go to the basics. It's always on to the next most complicated thing, or, the next biggest challenge. And we really can get back to the basics, of building these key core things about ourselves, the concepts, skills, vocabulary, and understanding of things that are unknown at any level. It can be a children's level, whether they're the age of 5, it could be, the age of 15, or it could be the age 50. It's something that at any age, we're able to go back to and set as a baseline for some goals or some things that we want to work on in ourselves. And where that starts is questioning why. So real quickly, just before I hop off of here, again, I want to keep some of these really short. When we get into our featured speakers, we're definitely going to dive into things a little more. But I want to keep these short casts of like my self-dialogue kind of short and to the point, something that you can listen to on a drive and, agree or disagree, or, laugh at me or go along with it, whichever is gonna float your boat. But just some examples of how we can start questioning why in our lives. Something that I've really come to question lately, and I'm almost positive that it's gonna be a part of some future taboo talks that we have, is monogamy and monogamous relationships. And I don't know everything about the various different types of relationships that are out there. I'm still doing a lot of research on them because I'm very, very curious. And this is, again, just an example that I give. It's not to offend anybody. It's not to say that I believe this and that I'm, living this way, but it's a curiosity that I think when you go back to and you start questioning why, it kind of opens your brain a little bit, because that's exactly what happened to me. I started questioning why, like, where did this come from? At what point did we decide as a culture that monogamy was the way to go? And where I started questioning this was, I'm seeing the extremely high divorce rates and infidelity in marriages and just relationships in general. I'm looking at other countries that still practice, polygamy, or I believe that's the term. So it could be wrong, but the term, where there is a husband with many wives, or even out there's wives with many husbands. And I even looked in biblical times where they did practice multiple wives for a husband. And like I said, I'm not necessarily condoning or saying, hey, think this way. But what I started doing was something that completely conflicted with my core and what I believed and what I thought was the right way, no matter what, because I was told so, because I was raised in a society that told me this was the right thing. And I never experienced or explained researched, I guess, or experienced it for myself, why monogamy would be the way that I would want to go. And I'm happily married. I have a daughter. But, we got to talking about this, and I just thought it was crazy how much it opened my mind and really made me start questioning, why do I believe this? Why does most of society believe this when we see that obviously there are people that can live contradictory to it? You can reference old historical books, including the Bible, where it talks about marriages involving many people. And so it's kind of a big scale, but start questioning why about things that you generally would never believe otherwise, things that in your core for a fact, 100%, this is what you believe and it's never going to change. Start questioning why. Why do you believe that? Where did you hear that? How were you told about it? Did you experience it? Were you told by a certain society or your parents? Or, where did this information come that developed and instilled in you this core belief that you have? I really, really want to encourage you guys to start questioning why on topics that are going to challenge you to feel a little bit uncomfortable about your thought process. You know, get dirty with it. Like, get out there and experience the whys, because just like what ifs, it doesn't mean that you have to believe that way or that you have to act that way or live a certain way. But it's a really good foundation for expanding your mind and understanding why it is that you actually believe what you believe. It's either going to confirm it or it's going to open your mind and you're going to change your thoughts about what you're doing. So if you guys can not be completely blown away by the example that I'm giving you, I wanted to use something that I think a lot of us are on the same page about. Monogamy is pretty, you know, nationwide and worldwide in a lot of places. So I want to start somewhere where we mostly can all relate and really challenge you, like question where that history in that part of us and that part of our culture came from. And then, you know, after you've done your research, after you've questioned why, because you never even know, I mean, you could totally believe and live a different way and completely have missed it because you're not even willing to explore the different sides of things or the history for why you're doing what you're doing now. I just want to challenge you guys, take it or leave it. But if you take anything from this topic today about why you should ask why, there's a lot of whys. If you count, it's probably 100 at this point. But one, if you question why and try to understand, it helps you set yourself up to be more willing to accept change. You're more willing to accept change and embrace it, even if it's not something that was good for you. You're more willing to learn from it and accept that the change was necessary for you to grow. My point two is that it prevents a depressed or a disgruntled mood. A lot of times when things happen not in our favor, or things happen the way we don't want them to, and we don't really try to understand why it happened that way or why the person was led to make the decision that they made, even though it affects us, we allow ourselves to become depressed and disgruntled and, you know, really, I guess the word I'm looking for, like you have no empowerment. You feel kind of bitter or, you know, envious of the other person or other people that are making these decisions because you really don't have the understanding of what even led them to that point in the first place. My point number three is it will definitely make you smarter. If you start questioning why about things, it doesn't have to be out loud to people. Don't go aggravating people, asking them why all the time. But just to yourself, you know, aggravate yourself to the point of growth and to the point of intelligence. Ask yourself why, you know, challenge yourself why you believe, why you do things, why you act a certain way, why you have certain passions that you have. I mean, really dig into yourself, and I think you're going to be very surprised at the type of intelligence and the type of desire that you awaken in yourself just by challenging yourself to have a validation for the reason behind you and who you are and your core. And my point number four is it helps you build understanding. Just like children, they go through that stage of curiosity where they're asking why about every little thing. Asking why is going to help you build those concepts, those skills, your vocabulary, and your understanding of the unknown. And it's going to help you get a better grasp on yourself and the world around you. We should really go back to the basics when it comes to development, like self-development, and like all of those, you know, spiritual retreats where you're just trying to dive into yourself and refocus and recenter yourself. Like, this is a really great opportunity to do that every day on a small or large level. Any scale, it's totally up to you how far you want to go with this. But just think about it, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I really want to say thank you again for listening to this shortcast podcast. That's what I call it because they're very short. And I hope that if anything that you get from this, that it really inspires you to question yourself and really understand yourself. And, you know, if you believe things because you were told to or because you believe it from your own experience of having tried or having experienced things that cause you to believe a certain way. Sorry, that was kind of confusing the way I just worded that, but I hope if you can press rewind a couple times and go through and listen, that you'll really understand and hear what I'm trying to say. And I hope you all have a blessed day, a wonderful day. Drive safe out there. Give hugs and kisses to those that matter. And we'll see you next time on Taboo Talks. This is Ashley Rodriguez. Thank you for listening.